What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Run Pure Sports NBA Hardwood Show. We're back after a big day for Run Pure Sports, right? We had a big Millie up top. We had Wiley take it down. He is in the chat. On top of that, we had some members do well. Bobby Boom. I saw Canes fans. So we had a ton of awesome hits last night. And, of course, AP, we had your Chiefs playing in the game. And, obviously it wasn't, the best night to be a Chiefs fan. But, hey, it is what it is, and I still think they look good, so I'm not too worried about it. I think the Chiefs, that defense combined with Pat Mahomes, man, I don't know. It's going to be a tough out when it comes to the postseason. But how's the day going?
Oh, it's going really good. It's tough to beat a team 3 times in a row, and I think there's a good chance that Kansas City sees the Eagles again. So that's my take with that. I mean, there are a few teams, obviously, that they could get the matchup against, and maybe they don't even get there. But I obviously think that they do, and we all know that. No one's surprised by that. Huge shout out to Bobby Boom, though. Bobby Boom, longtime member, has almost been kicked out, 3 times, 4 times, just for the wild rants in Discord. I actually sent him a voice note last night just because I was pumped for him. So we love to see members win. We absolutely love to see members win. That's why we're here. That's why we do this content. We want to see people he put $66, I think, in play in 150K. Are you kidding me? Bobby Boom, shout out to you. Wiley, Prez, shout out to you as well. You won. I think a couple other members did as well. Yeah, awesome night. Awesome night all around.
Yep. Awesome night all around. Pretty exciting when we got Bryce here, and we're breaking down this NBA slate. But, of course, how was the NFL slate last night? How did you feel about the game? I thought it was an awesome game. I know some people might say, oh, it was an ugly game, and the Chiefs receivers sucked, but I very much enjoyed it. I thought there was some good defense played, some good offense played. So I thought it was an awesome game. But how about you?
Yeah, I mean, the weather definitely affected the game. Chiefs D absolutely dominated. Their defensive line just kind of manhandled the Eagles for a good amount of the game. You can harp on the Chiefs receivers. Like, I'm really surprised they didn't go out and get someone like MVS. That was an absolutely brutal drop. They had the Sky Moore drop, weeks ago against Denver, which cost them 2. I think the answer is personally to play Rashee Rice a lot more and just kind of go to him. But, you've seen the Chiefs do this where they kind of limit these guys like Tony and McKinnon and whatnot, like, so they don't get hurt during the regular season, and then they unleash them like in the playoffs or like right before the playoffs. So, I mean, I still think the Chiefs are the team to beat, but, the Eagles are right there with them, obviously.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I think that they need to use Rice more in general. I think you just have to commit to, at some point, Rice and Watson are 1 and 2, and then you mix in gadget guys at 3. You can also put Kelsey in the slot. So putting Kelsey in the slot, that'll give some relief to guys that you throw into the slot instead of Rice and Watson. So I think they have enough to be able to get the job done. So we have seen a lot of options that you can go to. And then Wiley says, I have a backdrop. It's a start. Wiley, I did see the FedEx guy just pop by the house. I don't know if you, sent me all the equipment and stuff, or maybe it's some of the other stuff arriving. So we'll have to see. But hey, listen, I like to tilt Big T, and we'll keep nothing on here, as time goes on, just to piss Big T off. So,
I got to add one more comment. Like, I couldn't be mad yesterday. I just couldn't. I'm tired of, Big T, my guy. I'm tired of him getting absolutely owned by Mahomes. I truly am. It was good to see him get a dub. I'm happy for my good friend, my buddy, Big T. He finally got it done against Mahomes. So shout out to Big T.
I actually think that win was bad for Big T because Big T finally submitted and said, I was wrong. He was finally submitting, and then he got his change back, right? He got the money. And I just think
when did he say he's wrong? I didn't hear that. Well, did I miss something?
Well, I don't
know. All I heard yesterday, all freaking show long, was Chiefs suck. He does admit Mahomes obviously is goated. I mean, we all know that, but
Big T said, he tweeted 18 hours ago, he hit it with I've never learned my lesson that Brady and Mahomes always get the flag.
Yeah, he was bitching about calls. He was bitching about the refs. No, that's not admitting he was wrong.
I think he was it felt like he was finally like caving, right? And then he said, was there any other tweets he had about it? And then I don't know. I guess for me, I thought it was him just kind of like, if they lost, then you could finally the next day say to Big T, listen, you always, I think this was me in my head replaying, and I was going to say, listen, Big T, you always make this mistake every single time. Don't end up doing that, right? Like this is the time to stop betting against Mahomes. You messed up don't mess up for another 15 years, right? But I don't know, Bryce, are you down to bet against Mahomes like Tony is going forward over the next 15 years?
No. It takes a crazy person to do it, and Tony's crazy enough to where it works out for him. That's what makes him such a good tournament player. And I kind of think like the cash guy. It's like, I mean, Mahomes is the best, and they finally put a defense around him, and I think they get that offense going enough to where that like they can make it. I mean, plus if you look at the competition in the AFC, it's not quite as good as we expected. Like with all the injuries, like Burrow's out, Mark Andrews.
Yeah, they definitely ran Pierre, which is unfortunate. You hate to see sorry not to interrupt, but I mean they definitely, and I feel a little bad. Of course, you hate to see the injuries for sure.
Yeah, I mean it's just a much easier path to the Super Bowl for them than it has been in years past, and you kind of assume that the Eagles would have the easier path to the Super Bowl, but. I mean, I think the Cowboys and, especially Niners are for real. Niners are a real good team. It's a much better Thanksgiving slate this year than we've had in years past too. Just because the Cowboys and Lions are such exciting teams now, at least on offense. So, yeah. I'm really looking forward to the Thanksgiving slates.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the Thanksgiving slate. We will have a show for the Thanksgiving slate. We'll have a Wednesday show. We'll have a Thanksgiving morning show. So if you are hanging out with, the family members, let's say they want to watch the parade on the TV, you tell them, go watch the parade, and I will go watch some, Run Pure Sports. So be sure to come hang out with us. We appreciate it. We'll have a free show for you. And again, we'll have the Print Factory on Wednesday, which they'll definitely touch on the Thanksgiving stuff. I don't know if they're touching on everything, but they're definitely touching on the Thanksgiving stuff for sure. So be sure to check that out tomorrow. We obviously had a fun 5-game NBA slate to discuss tonight. And let's dive into it and kind of break it all down. AP, this thing starts at 7. So just to give an overview, 7 o'clock, Toronto-Orlando starts, which, hey, you can skip it and make it a 4-game slate if you want, and then head on over to the Indiana-Atlanta game, which is a 250. I think it's 252 total now. I know it's rising up a ton. We got Cleveland and Philadelphia. That's obviously a game to watch with the Karis LeVert news. And then I think 9 o'clock Eastern. 9 o'clock Eastern, we got Portland, Phoenix, and then Utah and Lakers at 10 o'clock Eastern. So, AP, I'm going to go over to you on this one. Give me a little bit of a slate overview, because for me, I am definitely down to kind of ignore the first game if necessary, and then kind of look at these later games, because there's a lot of good ones. And I'm not overlooking Indiana, Atlanta. I know you talked about betting the overs on these. So what's your thoughts on just a slate overview here for tonight?
Yeah, I mean, Pacers overs has been an absolute printer. I think it's 11-1, 10-1 or 11-1, something like that. Truly tested tonight, 252.5 total. Absolutely massive. I'm not touching the under there at all. And the reason why is it's all transition like buckets. There's no half court sets. This isn't like college ball. These guys are just going to be sprinting back and forth. Trae Young, Tyrese Haliburton, obviously very, very good. For pace, Tyrese Haliburton, one of the best distributors in the league. The problem with this game is figuring out the rotations. Hopefully, since it's an important game for both teams, we get tightened rotations. But trusting Rick Carlisle, definitely something that I don't typically do. And so I think it's a good spot. Like, I want to target this Pacers-Hawks game, but I'm doing it via rules. I built out like 3 or 4 different rules within this game to make sure I don't have bad overlap between certain players. So we'll talk about that more when we get to this game. And then the other game that I'm really liking, obviously, is Lakers-Jazz. Jazz, another fast-paced team. They don't play any defense at all. So it's just a great spot. Lakers really want to get obviously the Lakers really want to win this game tonight. We've seen a tightened rotation there too. And how about LeBron James? I mean, King James, year 21, what he's doing right now is insane. It's literally absolutely insane. And the matchup tonight is phenomenal. So overall slate overview, really, really fun 5-game slate. Should be some nice edge. I think there's some spots that you can, I wouldn't like completely X out, but there's definitely some spots that we could downgrade.
Yeah, and one thing to talk about with LeBron, which I'm excited to mention, dude, the guy's in the first playing tournament ever. You know he wants to win that. He cares way too much about this like little stuff, right? Like he wants to be able to put that on the resume, even if it's stupid, right? He wants to have won the first playing tournament. I'm sure he cares a little bit more than some of the other players about it. And to be fair, he's not going to have many chances to win a play-in tournament, right? He's getting old. So, but I mean, he's just absolutely incredible and is not stopping. Bryce, I'll go to you. What's your thoughts like slate overview here? I assume you're going to want to be very heavy on the Hawks and Pacers game, and give me your slate overview here on this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a short slate. So, like, if you're playing tournaments, I wouldn't, like, ignore any of these games, you know, because, you know, say, like, when the shot game blows out, you know, you can get way over the field just by being, like, playing some of these shittier games a little bit heavier. I mean, obviously, AP already touched on 2 games to target here are Indiana and the Lakers, but all 4 teams are just playing at crazy paces. And, you know, with the Lakers stuff, you know, you always list these guys questionable. You know, it might lower their ownership a bit just because, like, there's not any swap options really, like, because it's an island game at the end of the night. So I'm going to be heavy on the Lakers here. I like the Utah side as well. Orlando plays such good defense, and, you know, Toronto's a really slow team as well. That's definitely the game that people are going to be way under on. So, in tournaments, I don't mind. Like, these guys are still going to be in my pool. I'm not sure, like, how much you can play them, but yeah, like, I mean, like, Siakam, Banchero are obviously, like, still in play, but, you know, kind of knocks them down as, like, plays, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, we can dive into that game. And Bryce, let's just go right to you to talk about it, because obviously you talked about Banchero and Pascal. They could definitely be interesting contrarian spend-up options. I think on FanDuel, too, specifically, you could definitely make a pretty strong case for, like, someone like Siakam or Banchero, because you have to play 2 small forwards and 2 power forwards. But overall, I do think this is a game that you could ignore if you wanted, but you don't need to. Franz Wagner at 6.5K. I think he's an interesting option that you can go to. And then Mr. What's his name? I'm going to mess up his name, so I'm not going to attempt it properly. But Mo Wagner, right? I think on DraftKings, you can make a case for him as a contrarian option because he's a good fantasy point per minute guy if you're looking for some value. And then we got Goga, too. I mean, Goga, I don't think you want to ignore him at center because of what he can do at his price tag. So, AP, I'll go to you first on this game. Is this game a pass, or are there any plays here that you're interested in?
Yeah, it's tough to just full fade a game on a 5-game slate. I know our guy K Fallick does it from time to time to allow himself more time, wait for news for some of these other games. I do think we should have most of the news on the slate. I mean, depending on what you think about LeBron James, I am working under the assumption that he's going to play tonight. I didn't even put a questionable tag like on the heat map or anything like that. I just look at the Lakers list someone questionable every single game, either AD or LeBron. It's Tuesday, so it's a play. Like they want to win this game, so I think LeBron plays. Brogdon is the only one probably true questionable, but do they really push him if he comes back? So I'm not that worried about that game, and we should get the Karis LeVert news, I think, before the 7 p.m. start. So we should have most of the news on the slate. But yeah, you're talking a total of what, 216. So for me, just because it's a low total doesn't mean you automatically fade it at all. I think that's the wrong way to go about things. It really comes down to rotations. What are these teams doing? What's the offensive usage? How does that break down? So what I want to do is just limit my exposure to this first game. Like, I think there are certain plays that could work. Jakob Poeltl, Precious Achua. I think one of those two guys maybe could work their way in against a larger size Magic team because they're going to need the size in there. And then on the Magic side, Franz Wagner, 6'5" is a pretty fair price tag. I'm a little worried, though. You got OG Anunoby, one of the best on-ball defenders. Franz, when he gets working, he needs the ball in his hand, and he's just so good at driving to the paint. You got to think that maybe he gets that matchup against OG, which is going to be very difficult. And small forward is really tough when you break it down on this slate, unless you slide unless you just go with the Pacers-Hawks game, which we'll obviously talk about. And so I see Franz as a guy that's going to get some ownership on this slate. And if he gets that tough matchup against OG, I don't really like him as much. So as it stands right now, I'm under on Franz. But again, there are worse plays because at 6'5", he's definitely in play with his skill set. So overall, kind of on the surface, not a game I'm going to have a lot of exposure to. Goga, fine. Pirtle, fine. But I'm not in love with anyone here. Who knows, Mangone? I could pull a K Fallick, fade the first game, move on. We have 4 other games that are really nice on this slate. That might be a move that I pull here.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a priority, but also there's not bad plays in it, right? It's just probably one of the games we're not as excited about. There's a game that we're excited about that we'll get to shortly. But before we do that, we got to talk to Bryce, and we got to hit that like, guys. So if you could hit the like. Our guy Snyder, he's here. He's bringing you, as we always like to say, the soldiers. So go hit the like for our guy Snyder. We would appreciate it. But Bryce, I'll go to you. You touched on Banchero and Siakam a little bit here. So touch on this game. What's your thoughts here on this lower total here on the slate? You're on mute.
I'm just kind of trying to target some of these mid-tier guys that might not be as high owned as I think they should on a slate where, I don't love the value. So, in this game, I think that Franz, he's definitely in play, but I think he draws the OG matchup, might free up Banchero a bit more, which makes me like him. Goga is, I've been playing Goga all season. He's still too cheap on both sides. He can always get there. Even in a bad matchup, he can get there, rebounds, stocks, even some points, shit like that. I like Siakam. His game, I think, has changed. His role has changed this year, and the price is finally reflective of that. So I'm kind of a buyer on him at the price when I was a seller to start the season. And outside of that, there's not tons to love here. Schroeder isn't my favorite play. I'm not going to full fade him in my 150. Podol's not my favorite play. I'm not going to full fade him in my 150. But these value guys and the secondary guys, like a Jalen Suggs type of play, I don't necessarily love here. So I'll likely be, over on some guys and under on some guys. But not my favorite game, and the field's probably going to think like that as well.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go on over to the next game, and this is the one to discuss, right? It's the massive total on the slate, over 250. It's Indiana and Atlanta, and there are plays left and right in this game that we're going to want to get exposure to. So I think first up, Trae Young, obviously one of the better spends. You could make a case that if everyone's playing Trae Young, then are people playing DeJounte Murray at 8K? He could be a contrarian leverage or pivot play if you want to get to. And then this is where people are going to load up on a lot of these Atlanta options. There's a ton to talk about. DeAndre Hunter, you can make a case for him. You make a case for Bogdanovich and the upside that he has, and he gets going. And it's a perfect matchup for him to get going with no defense being played. Jalen Johnson, who's been a really nice emergence this season, I think you want to make a pretty good case for him. Clint Capella and Okongwu, they kind of split the minutes up, but at center, I think both are going to be options to get exposure to. And you could get away with playing both as well. Miles Turner could be a contrarian spend that maybe people don't get to. Bruce Brown, I think this is a great game environment for him in that mid-tier option at that 5.5K price tag. So I like him a little bit for sure. And then I think with people spending up for Trae Young, I think Halliburton gets overlooked at his price. So AP, the question is, how many Hawks are too many Hawks? And then how many Pacers do you want to get into your lineup as well?
That is definitely the question. And just like I said to start the show, just because we have a high total, And we could even see that number go over the total, but it comes down to the rotations and figuring out which guys are going to get there. And obviously pricing matters as well. And so I do think this is a spot that you obviously want exposure to, but you need to be smart with how you do it. Centers, obviously, against Pacers, flowchart spot, one of the top spots. Pacers ranked 30th against opposing bigs. I would also include, power forwards in there too. 4s and 5s basically. And then on the other side, the Hawks too, not as good against opposing bigs. And it's actually been power forwards that have smashed. And so I think this is a really sneaky spot. Like Jalen Smith, you can only play him at the center spot. He's 4-2. I think he's a really interesting tournament play if you're playing 150 or at least multiple entries. You could play like Clint. Instead of going Clint Capella and Okongwu, I think you could go Clint Capella if you wanted to go the double center route in a Jalen Smith double center. Jalen Smith a little bit more cheaper than Okongwu. I think both, like Jalen Smith's a guy that's like crushed in minimal minutes. Should see somewhere between 20, 22, kind of like Okongwu does. I love the wings, obviously, in this matchup. Bruce Brown, Buddy Hield, those are two guys that don't necessarily correlate too well. I was talking to our guy, Bobby H, about this. Actually, he brought the point up to me as we were creating some rules. I think, Benny Mack and, Buddy Hield is one that you could introduce a rule in there too. Like the only guy I'm not creating a rule around on the Pacer side is Halliburton. Like Halliburton has monster upside. He's been incredible. I mean, he put up a 75 piece against Philly, coming off a 61 piece right before that. I mean, if you take away the Orlando game, which was, again, keep in mind, it was a Sunday. This game was on Sunday. If you've been following me, random stuff happens on Sundays. Everyone is focused on NFL. No one's watching the NBA. I still watch the NBA, and I keep the Red Zone channel on. That's typically what I do on Sundays. And so, that game was just a disaster. Obviously, those guys didn't have it. They didn't show up, and Halliburton played 25 minutes. If you take away that game, it's 57, 61, 75. The guys have been absolutely crushing. And since optimizers and projections really dictate ownership, in my opinion, you have to put the number up there. You really got to give him a nice projection for him to hit your lineup. So I do think that he's going to be under-owned relative to where I think he should be, especially when you just factor in the other pieces on the slate, kind of the slate context with LeBron, AD, and some of these other studs, Joel Embiid, obviously. And then, Trae Young. Like I'm showing Trae Young at least double the ownership, maybe triple the ownership of Halliburton. And I don't really, understand that because Pacers need to win this game, or at least they want to win this game. Halliburton's going to play a ton of minutes, and he's one of the best distributors out there. So I think he's a smash play. He's someone I don't mind pairing with anyone. And then on the Hawks side, you could run a point guard versus point guard. I mean, this is another really good flowchart spot. Point guards against Indiana. Indiana ranks 27th. One thing, obviously, we talked about Indiana, no transition defense at all. And it's a great spot for Trae Young. So you could play those point guards against each other. I think you could see one of these wings go off. I like Bogdanovich off the bench. I'm actually over-projecting him in tournaments and in MME. He's going to come in and chuck. And this is going to be a great spot where he'll play 25, maybe 28 minutes. And in that allotment of time, I would not be surprised if he shot it like 16, 17 times at all. So I think this game is one of the best games for tournaments, but you need to be careful. You need to put some rules in there just so that you're not overexposed to any one side or players that negatively correlate against each other.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I do really like the Bogdanovich play. I just want to think about kind of how I'm playing some of these guys. That's all. I don't really I don't want 5 from the Hawks side. I think that's too many. I think you could get away with 4 on a 5-game slate, but so yeah, I'm kind of probably winning it.
I'm right around 3 max, to be honest. On any one team is what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, I lean that way too, more on the 3 side like you. I could see people getting away with 4, but that's just not something I love to do. Bryce, how about you? How many are too many Hawks, and how are you handling this game? Because it's clearly the game of the night.
Yeah, I'm going 3 max for both teams. I love the Hawks, and like they'll be popping in a ton of my lineups. It's just really hard, like for 4 players to get there from any given team, and like that kind of eliminates some of like the need to do all the rules that AP is talking about. Just because I don't personally love rules on a shorter slate. I like them more on like bigger slates, but I mean here, like I don't know, Devontae Murray makes a ton of sense to me in tournaments, just because Trae Young is going to be super owned, and like for the right reason. Like point guards absolutely smashed at Indiana, so it's a really good spot for Trae. He's significantly cheaper than Halliburton, which is what leads to the ownership difference. But I mean, I think Halliburton's just as good of a play. I'll probably be playing as much Halliburton as I am Trae Young. On the Pacers side, the rotations get muddied very quickly. I think Bruce Brown's a very solid play. I like Mathurin as well. I could even see Buddy Hield. Like, just this is why I go 3 max on this situation. I think on the Atlanta side, I really like DeAndre Hunter and Jalen Johnson. This is just such a good matchup for wings in a fast-paced game. Especially on a site like FanDuel that like it might lead to a ton of stocks. Like if you get a big stock game from one of them, like they're going to be nutted for sure. Okongwu is a great center play. I think Capella is a good center play. Not to sound like a broken record, but I mean, Miles Turner and Jalen Smith are really good plays as well. The only guy I don't really like here is Toppin. I'm just not really an OB Toppin guy. I was fine with him on opening night for 3K, but other than that, I've been selling this guy all year. So, yeah, I think Murray's one of the best plays in tournaments tonight. I think Halliburton's one of the best plays in tournaments tonight. Just because, like, Trae Young is going to be owned through the roof, I would think, at least in cash games and in tournaments. So, yeah, I'm going to have a lot of exposure here, but I'll limit my exposure by having max 3 from any team.
Yeah, I think you're right about the max 3. I think Halliburton definitely goes under owned for sure, like you mentioned, and DeJounte Murray is a leverage play off of Trae Young. Just depends how you kind of want to handle it. And then obviously Okongwu and Capella. Like I know you can make a case for like both of them are cheap enough, but I would likely kind of separate them. I'm not saying for sure set the rule, but I don't think it's necessary. So. But anyways, we can.
Hey, Mangone, one last comment, and again, this might not apply tonight, and it's definitely a really risky play because the Pacers were obviously in a blowout game against Orlando. They basically Orlando showed up, played incredible defense, shut them down, and Pacers just don't play defense, so it was a bad game for them. And Jordan Nwora was incredible, and the dude was a beast defensively, where that's where he's always struggled and why he doesn't get minutes. He was incredible. He was like their best defender for the day, and he's always been a bucket. Obviously, going back to the Bucks game, his Bucks days. I don't know what to do because, and I even went as far as listening to some like local indie radio 104 whatever. Bryce, you probably know what it is. They brought Rick Carlisle on. My only concern is like he kept referring to that group as like the third team, which is not a good sign if you're trying to play a play like that. I think he's deserving of a rotation piece. Like if I'm Rick Carlisle, seeing what he's done and the 2 games he's played in, I think he's been playing much better than like Aaron Nesmith and some of these other pieces. But again, that extremely, extremely risky play. If you're running a bunch of builds and maybe you don't mind lighting a couple on fire, maybe work them in there. But outside of that, very, very, very risky.
Yeah. Let's move this.
Oh, I like Nwora on DraftKings more. Like when you get like down into the 3Ks, it gets super thin on DraftKings, and punts really do matter there with roster construction. So, I'm fine with him. Like if you're playing 20 teams, if you go one team with Nwora, you're going to be over the field. So it's not going to take a whole lot.
Cool. Let's move this thing along. Again, one of the best games on the slate, right? You have to. I think it's going to be hard at the end of the night for it not to have exposure on it. So, yeah, let's go to the Cleveland and Philadelphia game though. Cleveland and Philadelphia is an interesting game because we're waiting on news, right? Like obviously, Karis LeVert, if he's out, I mean, we've seen this team on a very, very, very tight rotation, and if he's out, I mean, it's just. You got to have some interest in these options, right? I think Cleveland is going to be one of those teams that is in play. Pull up the popcorn machine right now just to kind of look at the rotation, just to kind of give an idea. Because, again, I think it's a pretty interesting spot. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell is out. If you lose Karis LeVert, like they're going to start playing a lot of these other guys. We saw Sam Merrill get someone, right? We got Amani Bates. We got Porter. I mean, it could get really muddied up here if they get deeper in the rotation. We've also seen games where they've only gone 8 deep. So I think you got to make a case for some of these guys. Darius Garland, obviously going to get a pile of minutes. Max Struss, who's K-Falix guy. Max Struss has looked great. You can make a case for him. Mobley, I know he's pricey, but there is some opportunities for him. And yeah, I think overall you have to like this game. So AP, break this game down and let me know if maybe Joel Embiid, who's been smashing every single slate, why are we not considering him as a contrarian play here on this?
Yeah, so Craig Porter actually against the Nuggets came in and played good minutes and looked pretty good. But yeah, this is going to be one of those spots where if LeVert is out, I mean, we should see a tight rotation. You have Georges Niang, little hashtag revenge spot at 4-2. Keep in mind, he's definitely scoring dependent. He's a three-point shooter. If he's not hitting those three balls, you know, he's likely going to underwhelm at that 4.2K price tag. I see this game playing slower, though, and that's indicative of the 219 total there. That still doesn't mean that these guys can't get there, but I have a few issues with the front court. Jared Allen, tough matchup against Embiid, and Allen's been kind of on a 30-minute cap. I went back and looked, and every single matchup against Joel Embiid, I think the best result he's had is like 34, 35 DK points, and that's with him playing like max minutes, and he's not there yet. So Allen, on a slate that we have lots of viable centers, I'm likely fading or being very underweight. I'd rather play Mobley. I think Mobley, matchup-wise, not getting the Joel Embiid matchup as much, most likely a better play there. Can we trust Dean Wade to come? I mean, all right, so Dean Wade. I've seen Dean Wade put up like less than 4 DK points in like 35 minutes of play. The dude nuked in 24 minutes against Denver, 26.5 DK points, 10 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals. I would rather bet against Mr. Wade, repeating that type of performance. Here's where things get interesting is guards against Philly has been an absolute smash spot. Now, is that because Philly is bad defensively? I don't think so. It's because with Tyrese Maxey running the show and James Harden gone, they're playing at a much faster pace with Maxey pushing things. So that just creates more opportunities for opposing guards. And Darius Garland with no Donovan Mitchell has just been an absolute, printer historically. 7.6 is a very fair price tag. If the game stays close, he should smash that price tag. They're going to need a lot of them tonight. I would even bump it up even more if LeVert is out. Important game here, obviously, for them. Max Strus, you could, 6'2", it's getting up there. But again, I would have him in my player pool. He's shown that he can pay off that price tag. 42, put up 42 recently against Detroit. So I don't hate that. And then, yeah, Joel Embiid, 11, I think he's going to be somewhat, lower owned here. But Philly is one of the teams that's pretty healthy on the slate, whereas we have some other spots that I think may be a little bit better. Joel Embiid, a nice contrarian play. I'm not super excited about it. I think the one guy I feel pretty good about in this matchup, assuming the game stays close, is Garland at 7-6.
All right. I think obviously great points there. And Dean Wade, man, I hate discussing Dean Wade, but hey, we might have to at least discuss him. Bryce, as a cash game guy, Dean Wade is known as the condom play all the time, right? And everything like that. Are there any cheap values you're interested in here, or are you just kind of looking for mainly the LeVert news and then making a decision from there?
I mean, if LeVert's in, I'm not playing Dean Wade. I mean, if LeVert's out, I think you can play Dean Wade. I mean, he just does cardio. He doesn't do anything. He just runs up and down the court.
Yeah, to be fair, Bryce, he's been playing on the court next to Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and Allen. So, like, I understand why. If you put him on the court next to these other guys, it would be a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, I'll play him if LeVert's out. If LeVert's in, I don't have tons of interest in him. I think Strus is probably going to be one of the most overowned players just because of like what he did last game. He had like an absolute ceiling game in this spot. I think Garland is probably, ownership adjusted my favorite play this late. You saw what AP said about guards smashing Philly, and I locked Garland in this spot last time, and I think he had 5 turnovers and no stocks, and he still pretty much got there. I think it's a pretty easy spot for him to get there here, even if Karis LeVert plays. So I'm going to be way over on Garland. On the Philly side of the ball, I like Melton some. I think he's still pretty cheap for his current role. I think Maxey is going to go super under the radar. I think Embiid is going to go super under the radar. So, those are type of guys that I like playing on like shorter slates and just kind of being flatter at the top and then like jamming the bottom, like if we get some good value here. So I'll likely be overweight on this game as a whole. I think Strus is kind of the one guy I'm going to be under on. And that's simply just because he smashed last game. And, I'm not expecting Max Strus to, he got 4 steals and a block. It's not like he's going to play 39 minutes against Detroit. It's not like he's going to be doing that every game. So I just think he's going to be overowned compared to what his upside is. And yeah, I think it's kind of an underrated game. And, I like it significantly more than the Toronto one to start off the slate. And, there's a decent chance we don't get this LeVert news until like right at lock. So, you're probably going to have to be swapping or not swapping. I'll probably project it as with LeVert playing just because it's easier to get off. But have files ready to go either way if we get the news before 7.
Yeah, and honestly, you never know what the starting lineup could be, right? Like they could easily like just randomly put like this Porter guy in there, or they could put someone randomly.
Cam Porter was a massive plus minus in some of these games. Like he's played really good basketball, and if the coaches notice that, I could definitely see them going, a 2-guard lineup against Philly. So I do like Cam Porter here.
Yeah, for sure. Joe is asking, Bryce, is it cold in the house? Listen, Bryce, I'm in a sweatshirt, and one reason why I'm in the sweatshirt is we don't have heat in my house right now. So I am cold in my house. I will say that. The Heat had a disaster situation last night, and we're getting it fixed tomorrow. So I don't know if Bryce, is your heat broken as mine is as well?
No, my heat is fine. It was raining outside, and I never took off my rain jacket when I came in for the show.
Yeah, you are.
This jacket's super light. The hoodie's like a Lululemon. It's like super light. So no, I'm not too hot. I like to be nice and cozy anyways.
Are we worried about Corey? I mean, Corey, what are we doing?
That looks like something Mateo.
What are we doing?
And it's not just that. Corey did it twice, right? We got 2 different numbers. So
the kid got a hold of the laptop for sure.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Andrew, the bill was paid for. It's like literally like last night I was sitting there playing some Call of Duty, and I thought the house was on fire. It was so bad. So it smelled like terrible, and it was burning. So we got to get it fixed tomorrow. We'll figure it out. Tonight will be a tough night, but that's okay. Maybe I'll have some ramen too as well, just to completely humble myself and feel miserable tonight. But let's keep this thing moving along. We got 2 games left. We got time, so we're on a nice little pace here. If you guys could please hit that like, we would appreciate it. We got Portland and we got Phoenix. We got Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, obviously some really good stars to talk about, and they're getting completely overlooked on this slate. But some of it is pricing. Some of it is just better scenarios and situations to look at. And then, of course, we're waiting on the Malcolm Brogdon news, which if Malcolm Brogdon's in, you're really just kind of off these Portland guys. If he's out, sure, you can make cases for these guys, but they are a bit overpriced right now, but they will come with no ownership. AP, I'll go to you. How do you want to attack this game? It's definitely a game where some of the price tags are just a little bit up, where I don't know if I'm seeing myself getting to too many options here.
Yeah, so I am showing like some ownership on KD, and a lot of that, I think when people look at this, I mean, again, the power forward, like bigs against this Utah team, just they smash. Like, it's just insane. Obviously, the Jazz, they have no rim protection at all with Walker Kessler out. And we'll talk about that. John Collins down there defending bigs. We'll talk about that in the late game hammer. But what I'm getting at, my point here, is shooting guards against this, or combo guards, we'll call it, against this Blazers team. The Blazers team that teams continue to pick on because they've been just terrible defensively, have absolutely nuked. And Devin Booker, I'm showing really low ownership on him. On a slate like this, I think this is where you get different and you get unique by just taking stands and getting overweight on guys that are projecting to be super low owned due to price and just other, studs that are projecting to be better. Devin Booker, though, the usage is insane. It took a slight hit in that Utah game, the first one, and what I mean by slight hit, like 29%, which is still extremely high for a true offensive usage rate. That was mainly because KD was cooking. I mean, he was in his bag. He was slicing and dicing that Jazz team. I think it's a Devin Booker night. I think Booker, like, literally could go for like 50 raw against this team. I know everyone laughs, but Booker's done it many, many, many times. And I think that's how you break a slate. That's how you take down tournaments too, is these plays that very few people are on. People are going to be worried about blowouts since they're favored by double digits. But if Booker is smashing early on, you got to think that they're going to let him get there. Like, I think so. So, like, his usage rate is insane. It's obviously him or KD. I think that's a good rule that you should use moving forward. And it's just those two until Bradley Beal gets back. And who knows when Bradley Beal, like, I can't remember the last time Bradley Beal, like, actually played significant, games and minutes. The guy, like, this guy, how did he weasel his way into a nice contract with this team? I do not understand it at all. Just like highway robbery, literally. So Devin Booker for me, I'm off. Like, my fades are pretty easy here. So, like, Eric Gordon, Grayson Allen. I would rather play the wings in the Pacers and Hawks game that we talked about, or the next game that we're going to talk about. So those guys are easy fades for me. I heard people talk about Nasir Little. I think he's risky for sure, but at 3-3, I mean, there's probably worse plays out there. And then Yusuf Nurkic in a hashtag revenge spot against his former team. I believe the first time facing the Blazers. He's 6'3". Nurkic, I mean, he could get there in minimal time at 6'3". So I think he's an interesting tournament play. And honestly, I'm under on the Blazers side across the board. I think these guys, like, if Brogdon's back, unless they said there's no restriction and he's fully healthy and he's going to play 38 minutes, yeah, I would play Brogdon, but I don't think that's going to be the case. And so if he's back, I see him being on some type of a minutes limit. And I'm off all of these guys. Like, Sharp is 7-2. I can't pay that for him. Jeremy Grant, I think he sucks. 7-4, too expensive for me. So Portland side, much easier fade across the board.
Yeah, definitely think that, again, this game is one that it's probably in the camp of the Toronto Orlando game. Probably one that it's harder to get to. Some of it is pricing. Bryce, are there any options here that you're really interested in? Because, again, I think Booker Durant, like, spend ups, you can make a case for. I just kind of want to. I mean, yeah, I know you said this, like, 5 games, you don't want to avoid any game, but it is a tough one to kind of get to.
If Brogdon plays, it kind of makes everyone on Portland overpriced because, like, they've been playing without him for so long that, like, their prices reflect that now. So, yeah, I think by far my favorite play in this game, and AP hit on him, is Nurkic. Nurkic is simply way too cheap in this spot against, DeAndre Ayton defense. So I like him a lot. I think it's going to be a little contrarian to spend or to play him. I don't think he's going to take a ton of ownership. I don't think anyone in this game is going to take a ton of ownership. So I kind of like being overweight on the Suns guys here and underweight on the Portland guys as a whole, assuming that Brogdon plays. If Brogdon sits, it makes these other guys a little more viable. And I'm actually seeing like a lot of ownership going towards Brogdon here, at least on FanDuel. So I think that's a pretty solid under spot if he plays. Like, I'm not expecting him to like step back into like a 36-minute a night role.
Cool. Let's go on to the last game. We got 5 minutes till we normally end the show, but we'll obviously be here a little bit longer because this last game is a great one to discuss. We obviously want to give out the plays of the day. Got the Utah Jazz and the Lakers, and this is a game that I am very excited about. I can't wait to watch this game on a nice little island too, so we'll get to watch that second half without too many distractions. And LeBron James has been awesome. I think he's going to get maybe not completely overlooked, but a little overlooked for sure on this slate compared to some of the other games and studs. We have Anthony Davis as well as an option that people are just not going to go to, right? And I think he's going to get more overlooked. And it's a matchup against Utah. And ever since Walker Kessler has been out, this team's defense has struggled a ton against big men. So I think Anthony Davis, really good spend-up option that you can kind of get to. We got, obviously, the Utah options that, yeah, they're fine. Like, Lauri Markkanen has a ceiling, but we know his floor could be rough at 8.4K. So, AP, I'll let you break it down here. You were talking up the Lakers a bit here, so I'm sure you're interested in them. And I'm curious if you're interested in any Utah run-back options.
Yeah, like if you're at the top of the leaderboard and, all your players are done and you don't have any, time left on your builds, I would not feel good. I would definitely not feel good about fading this game. The Lakers running the tight rotation, they got to, if they win, they secure it, and they actually, I think, sweep the group stage. And actually, if they lose, there is a path to where it becomes kind of questionable. I think they would get in via the wild card. Again, we're all new learning this play-in tournament. I love the concept. I actually want to go. I was telling my wife we should go to a freaking game, go to Vegas, go to I don't think we're going to do it this year, but maybe next year. I think it's a great concept. Watch the what is it, Final Four? Is it Final Four in Vegas, Mangone? Do you know, or is it?
I'll admit I'm not super.
Yeah, I got to go back and look. Chat knows. Someone could look it up and tell us.
I just haven't tracked it enough, and I didn't think they'd care enough about it. And I think some do, but some really don't. So it didn't seem like it impacted DFS too much, but I think it's impacted some teams here and there. So, but continue on.
So playing players against Utah is just one of the nut flowchart spots. Let me start with the shooting guard. They rank 26 against opposing guards. Against wings or small forwards, as I call them, 27th. Against power forwards, stretch fours, stretch fives, they rank 30th. And bigs, traditional centers, 22nd. A lot of that is due to a couple factors. One, pace. Pace is obviously very important. Two, they have no rim protection. Like, without Walker Kessler in there, they have literally none. And Kelly Olynyk is just constantly in foul trouble. So he's never playing that many minutes off the bench there. So they trust, obviously, John Collins in this smaller ball type of lineup. So that does a couple things. One, it makes Anthony Davis in a really good spot with all of us, including myself, looking at LeBron because he's been smashing, and this is a great spot for LeBron. AD could definitely be the guy that absolutely nukes here. A few other plays that I think are really interesting, especially when you look at this Lakers rotation. I want access to someone who's going to run, obviously, the second unit, kind of a wingish type player, but also runs the offense. So a higher usage guy, and that's Austin Reeves. I love the role that Austin Reeves is in right now off the bench. You get a higher spike in usage being with one of the studs in AD or LeBron. Well, one of them is resting on the bench. So that just creates more opportunity for a guy like Austin Reeves. And I think people shy away from him since he comes off the bench. But if this game stays close, which I think it could stay within 15 points, is what we need. Austin Reeves is still going to eclipse 30-plus minutes. Rui Hachimura is the other guy. This is like an absolute nut spot for Rui Hachimura. I know it's tougher to play this guy on a larger slate, but on a 5-game slate, and arguably 4-game slate, if you're ignoring that first game that projects to be very slow paced, a lot of defense, Rui Hachimura could be very sneaky, low owned, 4-5. We absolutely know that the stretch fours, which that's exactly what Rui is, smash against this Utah team. And the pace, even when Jordan Clarkson and Keontae George are on the bench, you still have guys, Talon Horton-Tucker, Colin Sexton, pushing the pace here. And so throughout the entire game, it's a nut matchup, nut spot. So I love the Lakers side. They're like the one team that I could see all my builds having like 3 Lakers players, and I'd be pretty content mixing and matching these guys on the Lakers side. The Jazz side, definitely a little bit tougher. Jordan Clarkson has been incredible of late. The usage is extremely high. The range is like 25 to 40%. He hasn't put up lower than 40 DK points in 5 games. Is he due for regression? Potentially, and the price tag's up. So that is definitely a concern. The other concern with the Jazz that I always have is they do run kind of a wider-ish rotation with Talon Horton-Tucker, Colin Sexton, and Fontecchio actually working into the mix. Isn't that one of K-Falc's guys? Simon Fontecchio? Is that how you say his name?
I think so. I don't know. I don't want to say Fallick claims him, but I think
I love it. Like he'll mention a player one time, and then that's his guy. That's his guy, our guy K Fallick. But yeah, I like Talon Horton-Tucker because of like the positional eligibility, being shooting guard and small forward. I think he's going to be popular, and he opens up so much. So I'm not as excited about the runbacks, but I'm definitely going to have some Jazz into my lineups. Lakers, absolute nut spot.
Cool. Bryce, how about you talk about this game? I know it's a Talon Horton-Tucker revenge game, and people are interested in him. People always love the good old revenge narrative. So thoughts on this Lakers and Utah game?
One of my absolute favorite spots of the night. AP gave a great rundown of the Lakers. I'm going to be playing a ton of them. They're all really good plays. I'd add Cam Reddish to the mix too. I think he sees a lot of minutes here. This game should be played at a pretty wild pace. On the Utah side of the ball, I like Clarkson. I like Laurie. I like Tucker. I like John Collins. I think Keontae George is playable. I think he's actually one of the better values, at least to me, on the slate. Once again, this is kind of like the Pacers-Lakers game for me. I love it. I'm going to limit myself to 3 players from each team and just probably end up being overweight on both sides here. I think he gave a pretty good rundown of, what to expect. It's really hard to get past Brow here. I think Anthony Davis is one of the absolute strongest plays on the slate. And, I think he goes like lower owned than like a LeBron James just because LeBron's been doing it recently. So, I never really feel comfortable touting an Anthony Davis play, but I think this is an absolute smash spot for him. So he would be my favorite player in the game overall if I had to choose one, but I'm going to be over on a lot of these guys.
Hey, Mangone, let me say one last thing real quick. If let's just say, all right, so no hockey tonight, obviously no NFL. Let's just say you're new to NBA DFS. You don't feel comfortable playing a main slate. There's a $15 50K up top showdown slate, and it's the Jazz-Lakers game tonight. So if you do that, if you play it, I think the strategy is pretty simple. You play either AD or LeBron at the captain, and let's just say you're playing just a couple builds. Lock either AD or LeBron in at captain, and then mix and match from there. You do that, I think you have a nice edge because a lot of people in NBA Showdown, they get so cute. Like you'll see it. Like I personally feel on a slate like this or in a game like this, like anything outside, maybe Lauri Markkanen is the other guy that you could go to. Anyone else at the captain spot, I think is a full-on mistake. I already looked at pricing and everything for Showdown for that slate. I actually already locked in my builds because I know LeBron's going to play tonight. and it's basically all AD, all LeBron. And I think that's the right way to play it. And it's 50K up top. So that's a small little nugget there for anyone wanting to dabble.
Yeah, Showdown is never cheap captain in NBA for the GPPs. Like the chances that like LeBron or AD are not optimal captain are insanely low. And I agree with you. If you do want to play a Jazz player, it's Laurie. I would not consider anyone outside of those three whatsoever.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked that much in Showdown, but obviously we'll have that tonight. And there's, we have tons of content.
No, so I bring it up because, like, I know I've been playing it when I can, when like the slates are really good, and our guy JVC has been low key, just absolutely smashing it, like quietly. I see it's a lot of chops and everything, and so I've started dabbling a little bit more, and the strategy is actually far more simple. So again, we love Showdown over here, like something we absolutely smash. And get ahead of the curve. Get ahead of the curve on this. I think there's nice edge in tonight's Showdown slate specifically.
Yeah. But, I mean, again, I played Showdown too. It's good, but I don't look at it right away. So we'll have to look at it later on. And we'll be in the Discord, right? Talking about Showdown, which is always great. Tons of members in there. We got cores posted, so always check that out. Let's move on over to the plays of the day. So plays of the day, obviously, I always like to put up Snyder Soldier for the plays of the day. So I'll give my Soldier first. That way no one takes him. I'm going to battle with Bruce Brown. I always like my guy, Bruce Brown. Big fan of him. I think he's a really good play today. So give me Bruce Brown as my play of the day. Bryce, we'll go to you next. Who is your Snyder Soldier play of the day?
I will go with DeJounte Murray.
Cool.
Good leverage off Trey. Absolutely love the matchup against the Pacers for him.
Murray it is, right? Good leverage play. I agree with everything you said there. AP, we'll go to you next. Who is your Snyder Soldier play of the day?
Yeah, so, I mean, I spent most of the I had beers with Snyder last night, and the hair looks phenomenal, just like it does in that graphic. So Snyder is always dialed. Like, this dude just never misses a beat. The guy is just completely dialed no matter what it is. But I spent most of the show talking up Pacers and Hawks and Jazz Lakers, which obviously two games I absolutely love. So naturally, my play of the day has to be someone different, someone not in those two games. It's actually going to be Devin Booker. I think it's Devin Booker just loves to beat up on these shitty teams, which the Blazers definitely are. It is such a spot where he could come out, just like be in his bag all game and drop like 50 raw. Like we've seen Devin Booker do that. I think he's been incredible too. And I love this matchup against the Blazers. And I'm showing like, and this could be outdated, like ownership projections, but I'm showing like sub 5%. I don't know. Like, what are you showing for Devin Booker's ownership? I think that's ridiculous on a 5-game slate.
I would guess like 10 to 15. Personally,
10 to 15.
5 would seem absurdly low, but
it could definitely be. I'm looking at outdated stuff.
I could see it coming in at 5.
We'll say sub 10%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, awesome slate. We'll be in the Discord chat breaking it down with you guys. We got the news that we're waiting on again, so we'll be waiting on that. That's going to be big, and it could really shake up the slate, but that is going to wrap it up for us here on the show. Thanks a lot for joining. Hit that like on the way out if you have not. But for me, Mangone, AP, and Bryce, see you guys later.